Every weekend, millions watch players sprint across perfectly manicured pitches, threading passes through impossible gaps, scoring goals that defy physics. But here's the question that haunts every amateur player watching from their couch. How much of what we're seeing is pure, God-given talent, and how much is something else entirely? Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. The gap between you and Lionel Messi isn't just about practice hours. Recent genetic research has revealed something fascinating about professional footballers that most fans never consider. Nearly 200 genetic polymorphisms have been found to influence sports performance traits, and over 20 polymorphisms may condition the status of the elite athlete. This isn't speculation, it's hard science from European Journal of Applied Physiology Research. But what's particularly interesting about football is what genetic researchers discovered when they studied professional players specifically. Professional football players present genetic characteristics similar to endurance sports athletes. This challenges the common assumption that football is purely about explosive power and skill. The genetic advantages aren't just about running fast or jumping high. We're talking about cardiovascular efficiency that allows players to maintain intensity for 90 minutes, fast twitch muscle fiber composition for explosive movements, spatial intelligence for reading the game, and reaction times measured in milliseconds. These aren't skills you can simply train into existence. They're biological starting points. But having genetic potential is like owning a Ferrari that's still in pieces. It means nothing without the right conditions to assemble it, which brings us to perhaps the most debated aspect of football development: the practice paradox. The so-called rule of 10,000 hours, introduced by Swedish scientist Anders Ericsson, basically states that it takes 10,000 hours, or 10 years, of practice to reach a level of excellence in sports. In football terms, that's 20 hours a week for 10 years, essentially turning football into a full-time job before most kids can even drive. But here's where the story gets complicated. The idea that to become an elite athlete all one needs is 10,000 hours of sustained, deliberate training is a myth in every sense of the word. The reality is far more nuanced and frankly, more brutal. Football is a multi-directional sport that requires a lot more than executing football skills to perform very well. The 10,000 hour rule assumes that all practice is equal, that every young player has access to the same quality coaching, facilities, and competition level. This assumption crumbles under scrutiny. Consider this: a player practicing 20 hours a week at an elite academy with world-class coaches, sports scientists, and proper facilities versus a player practicing the same hours on concrete pitches with minimal coaching. Both accumulate hours, but the developmental impact is vastly different. The access equation. Access becomes the invisible barrier that determines whether genetic potential and dedication translate into professional opportunity. The brutal mathematics of football development reveal systemic inequalities that talent alone cannot overcome. Elite academies don't just provide better coaching, they offer sports science support, nutrition guidance, academic tutoring, psychological support, and crucially, exposure to scouts and professional networks. These advantages compound over years of development, creating gaps that raw talent struggles to bridge. The geographical lottery is equally significant. A talented player born in Manchester has exponentially more opportunities than an equally talented player from rural areas with limited club infrastructure. Professional scouts don't equally distribute their attention across all regions. They follow established pathways and networks. But let's examine what professional level talent actually looks like in practice. Take someone like N'Golo Kante. Not the fastest, not the strongest, not the most skillful player on the pitch, yet his impact is undeniable. Cognitive superiority. Kante's genius lies in cognitive abilities that are difficult to measure but impossible to ignore. His spatial awareness allows him to position himself optimally before situations develop. His pattern recognition enables him to read opposition movements and intercept passes that others don't even see coming. His decision-making under pressure consistently produces optimal outcomes in fractions of seconds. These cognitive skills represent a form of intelligence that's incredibly rare and largely innate. You can train tactical awareness, but the speed and accuracy of in-game processing that elite players demonstrate appears to be neurologically determined. Professional players process visual information faster, retain spatial relationships more accurately, and execute complex motor patterns while under physical and psychological pressure. These aren't just physical skills, they're neurological advantages that separate good players from great ones. The psychological foundation. Mental resilience in professional football extends beyond handling pressure during matches. Players must navigate constant rejection, criticism, and uncertainty throughout their development years. The psychological profile required to persist through these challenges while maintaining peak performance is extraordinarily rare. Consider the mental demands: performing technical skills while physically exhausted, making split-second decisions with thousands watching, maintaining confidence after public failures, and handling the pressure of supporting family members financially. The combination of technical ability and psychological resilience required is exceptional. The luck factor. Even with genetic gifts, optimal development, and mental strength, luck plays a role that the football industry reluctantly acknowledges but rarely discusses openly. The relative age effect demonstrates how arbitrary advantages shape careers. Players born in the first quarter of the academic year are significantly overrepresented in professional football, simply because they're physically more developed when initially selected for youth teams. This seemingly minor timing difference compounds over years of development. Injury timing can derail promising careers entirely. A serious injury at 16 during crucial development years can prevent a player from reaching their potential regardless of talent level. The margins between success and failure are often determined by factors completely beyond player control. Scout availability and attention represent another luck-based variable. Exceptional performances mean nothing if the right people aren't watching. Players can excel for years in lower-level competitions without being noticed, while others receive opportunities based on single impressive displays. So how much talent do professional footballers actually need? The answer reveals the beautiful brutality of professional sport. The convergence. Professional football represents the convergence of multiple rare elements: significant genetic advantages, access to optimal development environments, exceptional psychological resilience, cognitive processing abilities, and favorable timing. Remove any single element and the pathway becomes exponentially more difficult. The genetic component is substantial. Both the scientific and sporting communities acknowledge that genetic factors undoubtedly contribute to athletic performance, but genetics provide only the foundation. The construction requires resources, expertise, and opportunities that remain unevenly distributed. Perhaps most importantly, the talent threshold for professional football continues rising. As sports science advances, coaching improves, and competition intensifies, the baseline abilities required for professional success increase correspondingly. Players who might have succeeded professionally 20 years ago may not possess sufficient advantages in today's environment. The uncomfortable reality is that professional footballers need exceptional natural gifts across multiple domains: physical, cognitive, and psychological. But talent represents only one component of a complex equation that includes development quality, resource access, injury avoidance, and timing. Which brings us back to these young players, playing because they love the game, dreaming because dreams cost nothing. Some possess genetic advantages they're unaware of. Some demonstrate the obsessive dedication that development demands. A few have access to optimal pathways, and perhaps, just perhaps, one or two will experience the convergence of all necessary elements. The beautiful truth remains that football's highest levels demand everything: exceptional talent, relentless dedication, optimal opportunities, psychological strength, and favorable circumstances. For the rare individuals who possess this convergence, we reserve our highest praise. We call them professionals. And for those who don't reach professional levels, they still possess something invaluable: the pure love of the game that brought them to football in the first place. That's a talent too, and perhaps the most important one of all. Now, if you really love this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment down below on what you found the most useful in this video. Remember to get your free guides down below, and as always, enjoy the beautiful game.